once so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red lights gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave, home of the mountains rising to the sun, towering o'er the plain. Hands held high, we stand as one, and proudly we proclaim, we are Columbine, we are Columbine. Let the world be told, blue and silver we uphold forever, forever.
You may be seated. Thank you, Blue and Mr. Marsh. Next, I would like to introduce James Hawksworth, the lead pastor at the Bridge Church at Bear Creek, who will represent the faith community.
Good afternoon. My name is James Hawksworth, and it is a great honor and a privilege to be with you on this day, April 20th, 2019. In the mysterious providence of God, we are here today on a day called Holy Saturday. And as a Christian minister, I would be remiss to not make the connection to the most important few days of our faith to this day, April 20th, 2019. In the Christian tradition, Holy Saturday is in-between time. The time between the death of Christ on the cross on Good Friday and his resurrection from the dead on Sunday morning. Life is often like this, wrestling with sadness and joy, in between tragedy and triumph, despair and hope, death and resurrection. Saturday is inescapable, and we will all face pain and suffering, and we all have. But as an old preacher once proclaimed with regard to Holy Week, he said, "It's Friday, but Sunday's coming." Well, it's Saturday, but Sunday's coming. And Sunday is the day when hope comes to fruition. Oh, how I look forward to tomorrow, but we must go through Saturday first. Little is actually said in the scriptures about this often overlooked day, but it's the day when people wanted to ensure a man in the name of Jesus remained dead because they considered him to be an imposter and a rebel. Yeah, Jesus was a rebel. Amen? Okay, I can get an amen for that, sister, right there. Go, rebels. All right. To ensure his movement was stopped, the Roman guards were even placed in front of his tomb on that Holy Saturday. I can imagine people saying, let's make sure he stays where he's supposed to be, dead and gone. Let's end this once and for all. Let's call it quits over this revolution that he has begun. And evil and suffering is like that. Let's put an end to this now. Let's trap people forever. Let's shut off hope, but not at Columbine. Hope did not die. Evil did not have the last word. And people have been able to move forward with great faith and with great hope. When our family was privileged to move into the Columbine community, we were amazed at the resiliency of this community, the faith of this community, and yes, the hope of this community. Heck, they even have a library called Hope. This community has refused to allow the tragedy to define us. And how this community has responded to tragedy is how we are defined. And today you'll hear a lot of words beginning with that prefix, re, as Mr. Andres has already mentioned. You will be challenged to remember, to reflect, and to recommit. And we must remember and reflect in order to recommit. I remember where I was, and you remember where you were on that Tuesday 20 years ago. All of a sudden, life comes into crystal clear focus, and we reflect. The things that we thought we valued seem to pale in comparison to what we truly valued in this life. And after we've remembered and reflect, we recommit. But I would like to ask, what are we recommitting to? When you walk into Columbine High School, right at the entry, there is a beautiful mural that says Living United, and there are words that fill in the hollow letters of Living United. And the first two words that pop out, when I just saw it the other day, were forgive and courage. These words pop out above all. And as we recommit ourselves to our faith and to each other, we recommit to extend courageous forgiveness and move forward with hope. In the ancient scriptures, there's an old story of the sufferings of Joseph. Joseph went through horrible suffering at the hands of his own family and horrible injustice at the hands of people who meant to do him harm. When he was reconciled with his family after many years of suffering, he said this magnificent line, "You meant it for evil, but God has meant it for good." Today you will hear about so much good that has come out of so much pain. And I would like to say this point blank, regardless of your faith background, we in the faith community want you to know that if you are still struggling and carrying heavy burdens, we are here for you and want to care for you. Please reach out and do not suffer alone. Remember, darkness cannot win. Evil never has the last word. Death does not have the last word. And as my friend and theologian Vince Baycoat once said, he said this, bad stuff doesn't have a period, but a comma behind it. Bad stuff doesn't have a period behind it, but a comma. And we are here on this sacred day, on this sacred ground, to recommit as a community to be a place of healing, redemption, forgiveness, hope, and service. It's Saturday, but Sunday's coming. Amen. Sorry, I got a little preachy there, all right? I'd like us to pray, and if you know the psalm, this ancient psalm, Psalm 23, it's powerful scripture, and we're going to pray this. You feel free, if you know it, recite it. If you don't, I'd like to pray that for us as a community. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. And surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. Amen. And it is my privilege to now introduce to you a dear friend of mine by the name of Makoto Fujimura. Mako is a great artist and a great author, but more than that, he is a great man who loves and knows people who struggled with suffering. He's well acquainted with that as a survivor of 9/11 himself, and he's here to dedicate a beautiful piece of art to the community of Columbine. Please welcome Makoto Fujimura.
Thanks, Pastor Hawksworth. I would like to have the current principal of Columbine and the former principal, Frank, if you can come up on stage, please. On behalf of all of us who watched this incident from afar, even from as far as Japan, and knowing the heavy toll still that you carry, I wanted to bring a gift to you and this community. And what I did was to ask this venerable ancient tea master tradition of tea in Japan, which harkens back to 15th century. But I bring with me a 17th century bowl, which has been broken once, some time ago. And the family of tea masters kept the bowl, holding the fragments for generations. And they mended it with gold. And you can see the gold, river of gold, they say, that has not only mended the broken bowl, but it has made it more beautiful than it was before. Not only this bowl is more beautiful, it is more valuable than when it was first broken. And I wanted to present this bowl to your community, to all that is still ongoing, and yet the new creation that can come forward is represented in this bowl. So please receive this bowl with gratitude.
On behalf of Columbine High School, we thank you, and as a token of our appreciation, we would like to present you with the Columbine High School t-shirt.
We like our t-shirts. The next gentleman is a former Columbine principal, and he hired a number of the staff that was at Columbine 20 years ago, including myself, something I'm very grateful for. Would you please welcome former Columbine principal and current Jeffco School Board President, Ron Mitchell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Andres. It is a privilege to be here on this day with the Columbine community. In some ways, it's hard to believe that it's been 20 years, and in other ways, it feels like the senseless tragedy and loss of life occurred yesterday, as it is indelibly imprinted in our minds and hearts. On this anniversary, I believe it is important to remember, to reflect on what has been accomplished since, to recommit and focus on how we can move forward together in the future. I am privileged and honored to be here with every single one of you and with every individual on this stage. It seems to me that the principals on stage today represent three important and different eras in the history of Columbine. This school has been open for 47 years and has had only 7 principals in that entire time. That is because every leader who arrived at Columbine knew that they were fortunate to serve this community and knew that it was a great community where they could make a great difference. I see the 3 Columbine principals here on this stage today in this way. First, I represent the period of innocence in Columbine High School history. My job as principal was to promote total program excellence, and frankly, we were enjoying some success in that area. Looking back and simply stated, I believe that we were naive prior to 1999. We did not see the future. We did not know that anything like what happened could happen in the future. And if we had, we would not have believed it could happen at Columbine. Second, my friend and colleague Frank DeAngelis has led this community through the uncharted waters of the tragedy and the difficult times that followed. His courage and passion have led this school and community through the darkness and into the light of hope. Not an easy task for anyone who is mortal. Thank you, Frank. And our colleague, thank you. And my colleague and friend, Scott Christie, now leads this school and this community into the future with optimism and hope because of the strength of Columbine and the special culture that has developed in this amazing community. The strength and commitment of this community is built upon a collective understanding of the shared tragedy. Today, Columbine can look forward with confidence and hope because of this shared experience. On April 20th, 1999, the forces of evil did not win. This community would simply not allow that to happen. Instead, the forces of good have triumphed. In the last 20 years, many students have left this high school, found their place in society, gotten married, returned to raise their families and work here. They do this because they want their children to experience this special community. In one of my early conversations with our new superintendent, I was trying to give him a feel for Jeffco, and I shared with him that one day he would hear the phrase, "We are Columbine." I told him that although it might sound like a cheer to him, that it is not. It is rather a mantra to the strength and courage and culture that makes Columbine special. I assured him that when he heard it, he should remember, they mean it. It's a commitment. 20 years ago, our school district inherited a responsibility to lead the state of Colorado and the nation in the area of school safety and security. I think it appropriate to think about some of our collective work in this area, even though we know there is no limit to what we could and want to do. A few of the positive things over the last 20 years are the statewide Safe to Tell program, school safety protocols, improved law enforcement partnerships, protocols, and greatly enhanced communication, improved school building security across Jeffco. The Frank DeAngelis School Safety Training Center, used by police, SWAT teams, and fire departments from all over the country, is a step that I'm really proud of. Expanded and better trained school resource officers. And another one I'm proud of, increased school-based mental health programs for our young people. Next year, we'll have a social emotional learning specialist in every elementary school. And we have expanded greatly district security forces and training. This is a continuous effort for our entire district. I really believe an important key to our success, though, in the area of safety and security is the training of our students and the solicitation of their assistance. Our students play a critical role in keeping all of us informed and safe. It's hard to manage paper up here in this wind, but while the loss of life 20 years ago was horrific, the impact on survivors, staff, students, and families was also significant. While time may help lessen the intensity of the trauma, the incredible memories still remain. I would like to close today by saying our thoughts, prayers, and hearts go out to the families of all of the victims of this senseless act. And yet, 20 years later, the strength, resiliency, and courage of this community have given all of us hope for the future. Hope is, in my opinion, the most powerful force in the human experience. To all of you who are a part of the Columbine community, thank you for showing all of us how the strength of the human spirit triumphs over the forces of evil. And thank you for giving all of us the wonderful gift of hope. It is now my pleasure to introduce a friend and colleague and Columbine's current principal, Mr. Scott Christie.
My name is Scott Christie, and I am the very proud principal of Columbine High School. Although this is only my second year as principal, I started at Columbine 10 years ago as an assistant principal. I clearly remember the first week that I began working at CHS. I had worked at other schools in my career, but I had felt right away that there was something different about Columbine, something special. It had nothing to do with what I had heard or what I had known about the school, but I remember the moment when I knew that the culture at Columbine was different. It was special. It was that moment, about 2 months after I started working at Columbine at our homecoming assembly, when I heard Mr. Moore and his voice boom throughout our gym of the chant, "We are." That's right. So powerful, it gave me chills. I think anyone who has been to one of our assemblies understands what I'm talking about. 10 years later, that same special culture remains. It is a place where we take care of each other. It is a place that we are proud of. It is a place that we love. It is a place that is more than a school. It is our home. It is a family. As I have talked about our school recently, I've been asked if the culture exists at Columbine due to the tragedy. I can't answer that because I didn't arrive at the school until 2009. Therefore, I don't know what the school was like before. However, I feel strongly that the events of April 20th, 1999, and the impact they had on all of us play a large part in the culture even 20 years after that horrific day. One of the amazing things about this culture is that the current Columbine students were not even born at the time of the tragedy. Yet they know what occurred, and they feel a connection to those who lost their lives on that day. Our students today know the kids who went to class in the very same rooms they now sit in are connected to them. You see, they feel the same love for their teachers, for their school, and for one another. And those connections unite us, as has created a culture that no other school can replicate. It is what makes the word family not just a word we say, but something we mean and something we feel. I think it is the reason why our students and staff take such good care of each other. It is the reason they are so loving, caring, kind, and dedicated to serving others. They feel the love that has been poured into the school. In fact, we honor our beloved victims by dedicating this day, April 20th, to serving others. I hope that the families of the victims can find some peace in the good that has come out of evil. Such as our day of service, there are multiple scholarships created in their names, school safety protocols, and we do a run to remember them each year. And as I said, I truly believe that every day we feel the spirit of your loved ones lost on that day, and is what unites us and what makes Columbine so special. They are what I describe as the Columbine spirit. Know that your loved ones will never be forgotten. Today, 1,700 students strong bless the Columbine classrooms and hallways. We are a high-achieving school in which 80% of our kids go on to college. We continue to create career pathways for our students so that we can help them identify their strengths and passions so that they can gain experience prior to going into the workforce. Last year, our graduation rate reached over 94%, the highest rate of our school ever. Our co-curricular and extracurricular programs compete and excel at the highest level across the state. I am proud of these accomplishments, but I also love it when our alumni return to visit. I always ask them, no matter what they are currently doing, whether it be college, military, or a trade, how well did we prepare them for what they are currently doing? No one has ever told me that we did not prepare them. We are not just a school, we are so much more. As I said, I was not here at the time of the tragedy, nor the initial years following it. However, I have spoken to many who were, and through my talks with them, I know that those years were incredibly difficult. If I had described what I have heard about those years in a word, the word would be surviving. Those associated with the school were trying to survive the emotions of the trauma of what had occurred. If I were to describe Columbine in a word today, 20 years later, the word to describe it is not surviving. The word is thriving. It is thriving because of those who believed in it after that horrific day and loved it through its most difficult days. They loved this school so much that they stood with Columbine during the worst of times and were determined to not allow hate to win. They were determined to rebuild the school to be stronger than it was before. Today we are thriving because the entire Columbine community united and stood behind us. We are thriving because of an amazing leader, my hero and my mentor, Mr. Frank DeAngelis. When 99% of the people in this world would have run away, he loved Columbine so much that he stood by it during the worst of times and made sure that it would thrive again. We are thriving because of the many people who followed Mr. D's leadership. Every staff member, every student, every parent, and every community member helped in making Columbine what it is today. Thank you for standing by Columbine. Today, we have 16 teachers who were teachers on that horrific day and remain teachers at Columbine still today. And we have 5 staff members today who were students that day, and I want to thank them for believing in Columbine and for their commitment and for loving Columbine. You see, every day I get to go to a job that I love, at a place that I love, and work with people that I love. I don't think there are many people in this world that can say that. And I am so thankful for this blessing, and I'm so thankful for the people who made Columbine the way that it is today. Columbine High School today is a symbol and a model of resiliency. My hope is that any person or group of people that has experienced tragedy can look to Columbine for hope. Columbine High School in our community is an example of the good that can occur when people come together and unite in the face of adversity. We are proof good conquers over evil, and that faith in one another is so very, very important. We are stronger than we were before. In fact, there is nothing stronger than rebel pride in the Columbine spirit. Columbine is special. It is a place that is truly loved. I love it. Our staff loves it. Our students love it. I am honored to be principal. I understand the incredible responsibility that I have. I promise to love Columbine and to work every day to fulfill my responsibility of continuing to move the school forward. To all of you who believed in Columbine and stood by it during the most difficult of times, again, thank you. Thank you for your resilience. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your faith in this place that so many of us call home. In the end, thank you, everyone who has been a part of Columbine. As I say to our students, thank you for making Columbine what it is, which is the best school on the planet. At this time, I'd like to invite our student body president, somebody I'm very proud of, one of 1,700 kids I'm very proud of, Miss Bethany Duffy, up to say a few words.
Good afternoon. As he said, my name is Bethany Duffy, and I'm the student body president here. And I've had the privilege of living here in the Columbine community my entire life. I wasn't there on April 20th, 1999, and I don't know what it was like back then. I will never fully comprehend what some of the people here had to go through. But what I do know is that I'm the product of this incredible community and the generations that have helped to raise me. The Columbine community exemplifies resilience, strength, support, and love that touches the lives of all those lucky enough to live here. Like other high schools, we have our highs and our lows, our struggles and successes, and yet there's something special here that isn't found elsewhere. There's a bond, a kinship, a unity that sets us apart and makes living here such a blessing. Columbine and family are two words that are paired together constantly. There's an inherent love and selfless care for others displayed every day. After experiencing 4 years here, I've come to realize that it is because we recognize the importance of relationships and building connections with those around us. There's a tradition of togetherness that makes the school and community feel like a second home, a place where others rejoice in your triumphs and reach out in times of need. The athletics and activities here have served as one way of bringing those from all around the community together, and this family dynamic is exemplified as students call one another brothers or sisters on the field or a family on the stage. This mindset isn't limited to those performing, however, but is shared with the fans, the coaches, and your fellow classmates. I know that I feel so blessed to be surrounded by so many people that I consider a second family. Administration and student relationships here are unparalleled, as each looks out for one another to a greater degree and provide these familial figures that make school more than just a learning environment. I have countless teachers and counselors that I revere and love, often going up to them to make jokes or ask them how they're doing. As I now prepare to leave for college, I realize that the support system, who has never failed to cheer me on and encourage me, is a blessing that I have admittedly taken for granted and will sorely miss. Yet I know that I will always have a place here and will always be welcomed home with open arms. Columbine has become a place in which people want to stay for generations. It will always be a home, no matter where you may go. Today we have over 30 faculty members who have been a part of this school for years, and many of whom attended as students. They've come to be an influence for good to upcoming generations, to give back to the school that helped raise them and love them. The school saying, "You're a Columbine rebel for life, and no one can ever take that away from you," holds true for generations past and countless generations to come. And I'm to follow in the footsteps of all the people I love and respect by bearing the name Rebel. Columbine alumni are a rejoiced, welcome part of this school, visiting often and rekindling invaluable relationships that they fostered here. At choir concerts each year, there's a stand set apart for alumni to come and sing the school alma mater with current students. As the joined voices proclaim, "We are all Columbine," the unity between young and old is felt. We are all a part of this family, and we are all a part of this family, and will continue to be for the rest of our lives. I, for one, will treasure this family that I've been lucky to have for countless years to come. Columbine is truly everything that people always say it is. It has become a place that students will forever be grateful for, and this is a goal that every teacher, coach, and administrator has. To have this feeling of acceptance and gratitude occur for so many people, even 20 years later, is a success story in and of itself. The heart that is such an essential part of Columbine isn't something that I've been taught, but rather have felt and experienced and has been passed on from generations down to mine. One of the most remarkable aspects of Columbine is that, although we are unified as one, there's a place here for every individual. You are not left for yourself, but are surrounded by others who will lift you up and who care for your well-being. There's a class, club, and program for everyone, whether it be Unity in Action or theater or mountain biking. Oh gosh. It provides this connectivity among students. We're all doing this crazy journey of high school together, not by ourselves. Selflessness is a defining characteristic showcased throughout the Columbine community, and I see this selflessness every day at this school, in the actions of my teachers and the compassion of my peers. This annual Day of Service tradition is a perfect example of how people from all walks of life come together to focus on what matters most as they serve one another. And I'm so grateful to have been a part of it each year. Mr. Tonelli's motto, "Got nothing but love," that he says every day after class, is a theme that is displayed to students and community members alike, emphasizing the value of each individual. While Columbine is not perfect, it is one of the most amazing places I've ever experienced, and I cannot emphasize enough how blessed I have been living here. The heart, the passion, the strength unites us all and makes us truly special. As Mr. Andres once said, when a house burns down, you either move on or rebuild it, and many of us chose to rebuild it. I just wanted to say to all of you, thank you for rebuilding it. Thank you for creating a home, a place where people love to be and always want to come back to. Your resilience, your compassion, your strength, and your love is touching the lives of more than you realize and has made Columbine an incredible place to be. We are all Columbine. It is now my pleasure to introduce a dear friend and teacher of mine, Miss Mandy Cook.
Hey, wind. Wow. Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us here today as we gather here to remember. On April 20th, 1999, I was a sophomore at Columbine. Since 2007, I have been a teacher at Columbine. It's been a great 12 years, and how lucky I feel to be working at a school that I love and a place that means so much to so many of us. 20 years ago seems like a lifetime ago, yet other times it feels like yesterday. We can all remember where we were in that day. We all have our stories. I remember feeling confused, walking out of Columbine, thinking we were evacuating for a fire, then told to cross Pierce into Leawood Park. Students started coming from all over the building. When I found my friend Elisa, she said that there were people shooting. It soon became chaotic. We were told to run to someplace safe, and we began to follow other students scattering into the neighborhood. Eventually, some of us landed on the doorsteps of the O'Neills. Mrs. O'Neill opened her home and her heart to a group of terrified teenagers. I learned from the news that the students should go to Leawood Elementary or Clement Park to reconnect with their parents. For some reason, I felt my dad would be at Leawood. Brian, Brett's older brother, drove a few of us to Leawood Elementary, where I found my beyond relieved dad. Little did I know, Brian and I would connect a few years later, as I discovered he was and still is the best friend of my husband, Joel. Each one of us has our stories, but in the days, months, and years following April 20th, we gradually found our new normal. I give lots of credit to our Columbine teachers and Mr. D, who supported us through those tough days. Being Columbine survivors, we found the strength and the courage to continue forging our path in life, but it didn't come without struggles. I do know that many of us continue to struggle because of that awful day. It was a day that changed everything. 20 years later, some of us may still be dealing with the pain and the injuries, whether physical or emotional, and the tremendous feelings of sadness from losing loved ones, whether family members or friends, on that day of senseless violence. The ripple effect of those losses continues today. We will always remember the teachers and the educators who did so much to protect us. You are not forgotten. Tragedy brings people together, but people outside of our community also wanted to feel the connection, and sometimes that would feel overwhelming to those of us that survived. 2 years later, I graduated with my class in 2001. We all went our separate ways after high school. Some of us went to college, some of us to trade schools or into the service, while others forged their own path into adulthood. As I prepared to leave my family's house that I had lived in for my entire life to move up to Fort Collins and attend CSU, I would find myself feeling anxious about leaving the community, my home. This is where I felt safe, knowing I wouldn't have to face the questions of curious strangers about me and about the school that I loved so much. we did move forward. We kept growing and learning about ourselves and finding our place in this world. For many of us, into our life story was woven a strong determination to make this world a better place. I went to school to become a teacher and then found love with another Columbine graduate, Joel Cook, class of 95. After earning my education degree, we got married. My teaching career began in Jefferson County, but I certainly didn't think at the time I would eventually find myself back at Columbine High School, a place where I feel my students are a part of my family. Because my husband and I share the love for our Columbine community where we both grew up, we decided to purchase a house nearby where we feel fortunate enough to be raising our two sons who currently attend Leawood Elementary. My life has come full circle as a student, now as a teacher, and also raising my family in a great community. Thank you for letting me share my story. Whether you live nearby or came here today to honor and pay tribute to our community and the lives lost that day, know that Columbine will always be home for so many of us because you are a rebel for life and no one can take that away from you. I would now like to introduce a Columbine teacher that has meant so much to so many of us. A teacher who knows how to inspire our students and our community to use our voices, our strength, and our love to make this world a better place. Here he is, our own Mr. Ivory Moore.
Everybody up on your feet! Hello, Columbine! We are! 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 And we love you, Columbine!
Give it up for Ivory Moore one more time. Give us a minute or two. It'll take us a moment to get our next performers set up. So talk amongst yourselves. Sean.
I saw that thing going, and I almost like do I get up and then like feels weird, like you're running over, and then I'm like, I can see the weight.
Got it. I don't think the wind will blow too much. For this season.
Our next group is a group of current CHS students that play in the chamber orchestra. We have Lizzie Hetzel on first violin, Brianna Sondak on second violin, Charlie Wooten on viola, and Sarah Kuzbiel on cello. They are under the direction of Mr. Phil Inzerillo, and they are going to play Crisantemi by Puccini, which is an elegy that was dedicated to a friend. one more round of applause for our young people. And now, over here, we will have a video message from former President William J. Clinton.
I'm thinking of all of you gathered in Clement Park to remember the 13 people who were taken 20 years ago and to support the continued healing of their families, loved ones, the many who were wounded, and everyone whose life was changed forever that fateful day. As long as I live, your community will hold a very special place in my heart. I'll never forget meeting so many of you when Hillary and I visited after the tragedy. I'll never forget your faces or the stories you told us about your sons and daughters, your brothers and sisters and friends, or the photos and scrapbooks you showed us. And I'll never forget the determination you showed to somehow piece your lives back together. In the 20 years since, you've shown America and the world what true community looks like, and reminded us all that the power of love and hope is far greater than the force of darkness, division, and hatred. When I stood with you in a thunderstorm at the groundbreaking of the memorial, I shared one of my favorite quotes from Ernest Hemingway: "The world breaks everyone, and afterward, many are strong at the broken places." I still look at that quote every day in my office, and you continue to prove it's true. So on this 20th anniversary, I hope you'll continue to be made stronger in the broken places through your love and the memories of the 13 people we lost. The greatest tribute we can pay them is to live our own lives in a way that redeems the years they didn't have. I wish you well.
Thank you, Mr. Clinton. Our next speaker is 2002 graduate Sean Graves.
Thank you. Oh boy, I just shut my speech off. I'm sorry. I can't tell I'm nervous. Okay, I'm sorry. That was, how do you follow that? No pressure, right? Well, bear with me here, I'm going to try. I think the last time I was this nervous to walk across the stage, I was accepting my diploma when I graduated from Columbine High School. That's pretty I didn't trip walking up here, so I think I'm off to a pretty good start. When I was first presented with the opportunity to speak on behalf of the survivors, I was very reluctant. I didn't know how I would be emotionally, what state I would be in. Well, I can tell you right now, looking at the crowd, looking at all of you, I'm filled with pride. Well, not just pride, rebel pride. I'd like to thank the committee for allowing myself and my wife, Kara, to be a part of it. It's meant a great deal to us to contribute and to honor those 13 precious lives that were lost. I tried this morning, and I would like to try it again. I would like to thank the first responders that were there that day, the firemen, EMTs, police department, sheriff, all of you. It's because of you that somebody like me survive that day. You've inspired us to do more. You've inspired us to give back to our community. You inspire us to inspire you. I'm sorry. I'm very emotional. It's been a rough couple of days. For those of you who might not know my story, and I have a feeling there might be a few, I was shot 6 times, leaving me paralyzed from the waist down with a T12 incomplete spinal cord injury. After 49 surgical procedures, months of the hospital, and years of physical therapy, I was able to crawl again. I taught myself, and eventually I began to walk. Needless to say, I've acquired myself a decent amount of scars. Those scars play out like a book. They tell a story of my journey, my personal journey, from where I was to where I am to now. But not all scars are visible on the skin. On that day, there were close to 2,000 people inside, students, staff, and teachers. On that day, those people walked into that building, but not a single one of us walked out the same. Everyone was broken. We all bled blue and silver. But because we were broken, we were missing something inside, and it was that something that we all were missing that allowed us to come together. With the media looking in, looking for us for answers, we led the way. We showed them that we can overcome evil. We can love one another. We can become family. To my Columbine family, all of you, I love you. And I appreciate it. All of your support throughout the years. It's because of you that I'm up here today. It took me having a baby to truly understand just how far I didn't quite understand what my parents had gone through until I put myself into their shoes with my daughter. And it's because of that that I have a whole new appreciation for the people I love. I'd like to thank my family, my mother and dad, my brother Seth. I may have lost a friend that day, but I gained a brother in return. I love you, Adam. I'm proud to be a part of this community. I'm a rebel. To the future generations of Columbine, future rebels, it is your job to represent this community the way that we had. Go out, love one another. Learn from our mistakes. We didn't realize how much we meant to each other until it was too late. It took tragedy for us to realize that we can move past hate. We don't have to not like each other. Enemies, we're now best friends. We love one another. You're my family. We made friendships. We gathered strong. We led by example. We will remember the precious 13 lost, the lives. We will honor their lives by spreading love, by doing a kind act, by treating each other with respect. Thank you. I'm sorry. This is, I'm a rebel through and through. My daughter, she will be a rebel. She's only 3 now. We're rebel strong, and not many people know what that means. Everyone was broken. Everyone with a missing piece. But it was that common whole that allowed us sorry.
Great, Sean.
I love you guys. I miss. Thank you for the support. It's now my great honor to introduce the next speaker. Truth be told, this man inspired me in the beginning to push myself harder, and it is because of him that I am literally standing here today. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, Patrick Ireland.
Hi, Kennedy. You know, when I first met Sean, was the was the first week we were at Craig Hospital, and I was in bad shape. Sean shared with you about his injuries. I was shot twice in the head and once in the foot, and one of those buckshots went through the left hemisphere of my brain and paralyzed me on my right side. The physical piece was not as detrimental because that part I was able to recover from and relearn how to walk and get the physical strength back and things like that. But the cognitive piece was by far the most challenging part for me. So when I first met Sean, we were at the Friendship House at Craig Hospital one Saturday, and he's sitting there talking a mile a minute, and my mind was not up to speed yet. The bullet went through the language center of my brain, and the cognitive impairment and relearning how to read and write and form words and be able to write letters and be able to speak again was extremely challenging. This morning I was talking with some of the first responders, and I heard more of the details about my trip to St. Anthony's Central Hospital, and my speech was so slow and labored, and so when I first met Sean, I was probably like 3 sentences behind him trying to understand and comprehend what he was saying, trying to formulate my own feedback and thoughts and what I was going to respond with. He's already like 3 sentences down the road. That was extremely frustrating for me because I'd always been a hard worker and a good student. I'd had straight A's up to that point, and the cognitive piece about it was just so challenging and frustrating for me because in my mind, I knew what words I wanted to say, what letters I wanted to write, what sort of communication with people. The first week at St. Anthony's, I remember later on hearing stories and people sharing with me about just conversations that didn't make any sense. I had just gotten back from a Spanish class trip to Spain, and half my conversations were in Spanish. Other questions that were asked of me, I was either repeating what I heard over the intercom or repeating the question back to whoever was asking me the question, and just a significant challenge in the communication between me and whoever I was talking to. But through the help of everybody, first responders, police, SWAT, EMTs, physical therapists, occupational therapists, everybody, doctors, nurses, surgeons, like everybody who helped with rebuilding our lives, we've come so far. Love. Impact. Scars. Perseverance. Attitude. Togetherness. Pride. Community. Hope. Memories. Recovery. Forgiveness. These are some of the words that come to mind when I think back on the past 20 years and what our journey has meant to me, and hopefully to many of you as well. This has been an extremely emotionally draining week for me. I've had some conversations up to this point, that getting a chance to speak on Thursday night, talking to student body yesterday morning, speaking this morning and speaking here, it's like you get amped up, you get some adrenaline going, and then after, just like this huge letdown of adrenaline, I'm going to sleep good tonight. We've been able to come together and connect with so many people that I'm sure after it's all over, we'll look back on it. There was so much anticipation leading up to this. The planning committee meetings, all the different things, and just the massive amount of time that we put into it beforehand, waiting for it to come, just the day. Thank God it's Easter tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll be glad to know that we're all here and that we participated. When I think of love in the world, I think of all the good people out there, the belief that love exists, the belief that love triumphed and overcame. I witnessed it. And the 24-year-old ambulance driver that traveled 85 blocks to St. Anthony's Hospital in 17 minutes. I witnessed it in the counselors, mental health professionals that guided so many of us. By keeping a positive outlook, despite all the negative news with which we're constantly bombarded, we can overcome obstacles. Dwelling on what is bad in the world results in lost energy and does nothing to improve our lives. Impact. Sean mentioned this. Everyone was affected. There's not a single person in our school or the community that was not impacted or changed in some way. Obviously, not everybody has the physical scars from that day, but everyone was affected. Many of us are still working through the process, dealing with that. Hopefully, you're not traveling that road alone. With respect to recovery, I'm not really sure about that word, perhaps because it implies some sort of end to the road. And for many, there may not be an end, but more of a process of learning how to adjust. Perseverance. Perseverance is one of the lessons that stuck with me from my childhood. Without perseverance, who knows if I would have made it to that window or gotten out alive. Without perseverance, who knows if I would have proven the doctors wrong and learned to walk again. Without perseverance, who knows if I would have graduated with my class, let alone valedictorian. We must persevere every day in our work to positively impact other people's lives. The lesson that played the most critical role in defining the impact that day, and more importantly, the days that followed, and shaped my life and the lives of people around us, was a recognition of choice. We can choose our attitude. We can choose our effort. We can choose to live with the attitude of a victor, because you're only a victim if you let yourself become one. Choosing to be a victor gives us the courage and strength to push on when the easier choice may be just to give up. U.S. civil rights leader Whitney Young once said, "The truth is that there's nothing noble in being superior to someone else. The only real nobility is being superior to your former self." During my recovery, my neuropsychologist told me that something that started my road to recovery, emotional recovery, was the fact that I was able to do something about my situation, even in the library. I think there are two pieces to that: my personality and perhaps my commitment to others. Motivated me to do something, to push, initiate. The fact that I was able to take charge that day, as hard as it was, empowered me. So I took on the responsibility, and in turn gave me inner strength to overcome the injury to the extent that I have. Togetherness. Togetherness embodies the soul of this community. Open hearts, open homes. Mandy talked about it. The homes that became open, gathering, inviting people in, immediately following, we needed places to gather, just to be together. Hospitals, people's homes, churches, sports arenas, football stadiums opened their doors and became sanctuaries where we were able to grieve and remember. My friends stood by me with fierce determination. This was because they needed me as much as I needed them. We were all traumatized in our own ways, and supporting me gave them a mission of their own. They were able to do something about the situation by visiting me, staying in touch, and it gave them a sense of control. Together we can, together we will. Pride. Talk about that rebel pride. I had a chance to speak to the student body yesterday and talked about this. Rebel pride is more than just a school logo. It's a feeling that you get from this community. Grit, hard work, determination, nothing is handed to you. You have to work hard to achieve this, achieve things in life. Rebel pride is something that you grow up aspiring to be a part of. I have a sense of pride in that image of me coming out the window that day. To me, it's an image of hope, strength, and courage. So if that story helps, I'm honored to be one, just one, of the symbols of that day. Memories. I've got so many fond memories of this and the school and community being being part of the 1997 state basketball championship as a freshman, playing poker and blackjack in this cafeteria during off hours, thanks to the upperclassmen at that point, the juniors and seniors who, told the teachers, "Oh, we're not gambling." Study groups for chemistry class. Food club. The most active club in Columbine High School history. Not everybody knows about it, but we made the yearbook. That did not exist until a group of us decided to go crush some all-you-can-eat restaurants. Then we got a little bit more sophisticated and wrote some bylaws, and our AP English teacher just encouraged it and kept us going. We still meet. Spanish class trip to Spain the month before the shooting. Pre-game meals with Mark Schlereth. Mr. D and the Lakewood Police teaching one of my best friends a lesson in the parking lot to pour out, how many cases of beer was that? 10? 10 cases of beer? Peter. Oh, man. Bookland and our AP English trip to the UK. The Fairview game. The 1999 state championship. Hey, Lowry. Still waiting on that ring that Losh promised me all those years ago. Finally, I'll leave you with a few thoughts about the tremendous power of forgiveness. You see, in this community, the amount of loving, healing energy coming our way from all over the world at that time was incredible. We had total strangers praying, lighting candles, sending their positive thoughts. But in order to receive this healing energy, forgiveness was an extremely important step. Unforgiveness is a silent killer, negatively affecting your life. But guess what? Forgiveness is not easy. It's hard. It can be painful. It can dig up stuff from our past. Our pride can get in the way. We could have a fear of getting hurt again. Maybe not forgiving gives us a sense of power. But in order for forgiveness to take place, there must first be a debt that is owed. Our innocence was stolen. How can that ever be repaid? But forgiveness is a process. It takes time. It takes practice, repetition, translating that rhythm into movement to be developed. My parents prayed that I would come through this emotionally intact and as healthy as possible. Nobody knew the extent of my physical or cognitive abilities, what they would be. But they prayed that I would not harbor anger and resentment. And the fact that I was able to incorporate that into my rehab at Craig was extremely important. It was a huge relief to my family to hear and to know that I was on the road to forgiveness early on. That we were able to focus the energy on the work that I needed to do, on the work that our community needed to do, to come together. Because the key to forgiveness is to stop focusing on what others have done to us and focus on all the good things and the blessings of what has been done for us. At this point, it gives me great pride to introduce our next speaker, Donna.
you. Okay, I came with tissue. I am Donna. I'm the mother of Lauren Townsend, who was murdered in the library, and I'm very sincerely honored to be representing the families today. Thank you for this opportunity. And thank you for everyone who came today. Governor Polis, thank you. Governor Hickenlooper, thank you. Honored guests. Families. I know it was tough to come here today. Thank you. Students, community members, thank you for being here today to pay tribute and remembrance to our 13. And recognition to all those who were affected 20 years ago today. 20 years. Can it really be that long? Can it truly be 20 years since I've seen my Lauren? I mean sincerely. She could walk through my back door this afternoon, and I'd just say, "Hey, where you been?" Because she'd always call out, "Hey, Mom, I'm home." And I'd just look at her and say, "Where you been?" For the past 20 years. You know, there's a question that all of us have been asked a lot. How are you doing? How are you doing after all this time? It's a valid question. And personally, I need to kind of stop and gut check. How am I doing? How are we doing after 20 years without our loved ones? Fine isn't an answer. It's a little joke. Fine isn't an answer. Because really that's something one says to brush over the question and just move on to something else. Because that's the answer one gives to make the other person feel better. How are we surviving? You know, the secret to surviving is that there is no secret to surviving. You don't get a quick pass to the front of the line. And there's no car to whisk you away and help you escape. You don't get to escape the pain. You simply and bravely face it. Every second of every minute of every day. Surviving takes every breath that you struggle to take. And then, one day, you realize it's not so dark. The sun's shining. And you can feel the warmth on your face again. How are we? We're changed. We're weaker in some places, but hopefully we're stronger in most of them. Our hearts have giant holes in them, but our hearts are bigger than they were 20 years ago. We've all found ways to reach out to others. And it started by helping the students at Columbine by building them a new library and a new atrium And then we went on, and we worked at raising money for the memorial. And you know, it's continued for 20 years by each of us in our own personal experiences, finding ways to help others who are going through the same pain and the same heartbreak as ours. How are we? We're more empathetic. School shootings, any shooting, brings us right back to that same place we were on April 20th, 1999. We're sick to our stomachs. We're on our knees, and we're searching for answers. We're hurting for those families, and we know, we're not just wondering, we know how those families feel. And every cell of our bodies understands what each of them is going through. We're in their homes, and we know how they feel and what they're doing. Nothing is a headline anymore. It's a visceral experience. Yes, we're changed. Birthdays, anniversaries, graduations, weddings, births, they're all celebrated. The twinge of emptiness. Something's missing. No, somebody's missing. And always will be. You know, we wonder what our loved ones would look like. We wonder what they'd be doing. But we can hear them laughing. We can see them smiling. They're standing beside us. And it's, oh, the possibilities of what could have been. And the possibility of those possibilities. Healing takes work. There's no rule book, no time frame, and so importantly, no judgment. Grief is as individual as a fingerprint, and everyone who suffers does what's right for him. But we do celebrate. Some of us in the past 20 years have had more children. Some of us have become parents and aunts and uncles, and some of us have become grandparents. Yeah, with another one on the way. But we've celebrated life. And we've tried to share what we've learned with others. Because if we can't take this horrible pain and turn it into something positive, something loving, then how can we honor them? How can we honor our 13 if we don't reach out and help others? Because the serendipitous glory of helping others is that when we do, we start and we continue to heal. How are we? We're grieving. 20 years later, you're grieving? Yes, we're still grieving. And for some of us, we're finally grieving. There is no greater gift that you can give someone who's grieving than to ask them about their loved one. And then really listen. Grief is forever. It doesn't go away. It becomes a part of you every step, every breath. We never stop grieving because we never stop loving. It's a fact of life. It's a fact of death. Grief and love are intertwined. One accompanies the other. To love them is to grieve them, and to grieve them is to love them, and to love the world by continuing to live our lives with honor and joy and giving and love. That's why I'm excited about today. I'm excited about April 20th being a day of giving, a day of recommitment. When Casey Summers, the former principal of Columbine, came to me after a volleyball game almost 4 years ago, and he said, "Dawn, I've heard you. The Columbine students are going to make April 20th a day of giving." I started to cry, and they were tears of joy. What better tribute to our beloved 13 than to have the students of Columbine use this day, to go out and contribute in a positive way to their community. This is the third year that my husband Bruce and I have joined them, working with them to help others. My daughter joined us today, my granddaughter joined us today, and we work side by side with the students. I've heard nothing but inspirational responses from the students and the recipients of those acts of kindness of how good they feel on this day. Listen to those words, how good they feel on this day. What a paradigm shift. Come on, how good they feel on this day. Isn't that amazing? A day of service, a day of recommitment in honor of those whose lives were so tragically taken and who were forever traumatized. Something wonderful from something so horrible. This is how we honor them. Lauren, Kyle, Matt, Kelly, Danny, Rachel, Isaiah, Corey, Daniel, Cassie, John, Stephen, Dave, this is how we honor you. And each of you can do the same. Just as 20 years ago in the aftermath of the massacre, we wanted to be better people to honor them, so should we continue each day to do the same. Their lights have ignited us. We can shine for them. You know, sometimes I wonder how I'm going to get through this day. Sometimes I wonder how I'm going to get through any day. I think of Lauren, and I hear her say, "Do it for me. Do something wonderful for me today. Do something wonderful for all of them today. A smile, a simple act of kindness, a loving gesture. Do it for them. I promise you'll feel amazing." God bless you all. And if I haven't told you today, I love you. Thank you, God. Thank you all so much. I'd like to bring up two young gentlemen who are teachers at Columbine and have made the dream a reality in this day of service, day of recommitment. Jeff Garco, Sam Daly. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Sam Daly. I have the honor of teaching social studies at Columbine High School.
My name is Jeff Garco. I'm a proud graduate of the Columbine High School class of 2006, and also have the honor of teaching social studies at Columbine High School. When we were asked to come up here and speak about the day of service, Sam and I talked for quite a while about what that actually meant to us, what that means to our school, and what that means to our community. And what we quickly realized, as so many in this crowd would realize as well, is that service is built into the DNA of Columbine High School. Service is in everything we do. When you come to Columbine and step through the doors for the first time, you understand that expectation that when you're a Columbine Rebel, you serve others. So while the day of service is an amazing culmination of what we expect of our students every day, it's not the only way that we serve. Columbine High School hosts the largest high school blood drive in the United States of America. Students in many of our clubs, National Honor Society, Unity in Action, and Key Club, have put in literally thousands of hours of community service and raised thousands of dollars in this year alone. Columbine High School, Chatfield High School, and Dakota Ridge High School are one of the only communities in the country who come together once a year to hold a tri-school event known as Chakotabine, where every year the school that hosts it chooses an organization that they would like to raise money for. And that amount has gone into the hundreds of thousands of dollars as our Student Senate, Chatfield Student Senate, and Dakota Ridge's Student Senate have come together to put on an amazing event year after year to celebrate the larger Columbine community.
At Columbine High School, we serve others, and we've learned that service has many forms. Today, over 100 Columbine alumni are participating in service projects across the country. Others are giving back to their community in their own way, spending time with friends, spending time with family, giving kindness, giving a smile, a hug, and sharing love with each other, spending time with former classmates. Our day of service, like Donna mentioned, started in 2017 as a way to remember the lives lost at Columbine, as well as a way to celebrate and give back to the community that has given us so much. That first year, 20 projects took place and 560 students and staff members volunteered. Today, we're aware of 87 projects across 17 states and 9 countries, including Canada, France, the United Kingdom, Malaysia, and Tanzania.
All of these service projects that have taken place across the world are taking place because people have been inspired by our community's commitment to service, our commitment to one another, and our commitment to others. Communities have organized projects as close as Nebraska, where a community rec center handed out cards with words of encouragement, to those as far as Borneo, Malaysia, where people are serving at wildlife sanctuaries, and to Washington, D.C., where individuals are serving the homeless in their neighborhoods. Today, for people taking part in the day of service, Columbine means something different. Acts of kindness, acts of service, acts of love towards others.
Here in the Columbine community, we set an ambitious goal of having over 1,000 students and staff serving around our community today. We are incredibly proud to announce that there were over 1,025 Columbine Rebels participating in over 40 service projects across our community. And it doesn't stop there. Globally, over 1,500 people are serving their communities in a variety of ways, and this is what the Day of Recommitment means, and this is what a Day of Recommitment looks like.
In February, we had the privilege to accompany Donna, Frank DeAngelis, former Attorney General Cynthia Kaufman, and Patrick Ireland to meet with our newly elected governor to ask that April 20th be forever known as a day of recommitment and solidarity with the Columbine community. Beyond acknowledging what we do and who we are here at Columbine, Governor Polis wanted to take this message of recommitment one step further and proclaimed every April 20th a statewide day of recommitment.
With all of this being said, and with incredible inspiration from the folks behind us, especially Don Anna, we'd like to welcome the 43rd Governor of the state of Colorado, Jared Polis, who has a special message for the Columbine community.
You know, when Sam and Jeff asked me to attend, I think it was probably my first or second week, I think, in office when they came by, didn't even have to or even occur to me to look at my schedule for April 20th and what other commitments I might have. I said, yes, of course, I will be there. You know what? Governors come and go. Columbine students enter as freshmen, graduate as seniors, come and go, seasons come and go. But the state of Colorado will always remember Columbine and what it means to all of us, as well as the living positive legacy that the efforts of many survivors and Columbine alumni have birthed that promises our state, our nation, and the world so much. Of course, today, we gather with heavy hearts. We remember today and every day those who were taken from us prematurely. We remember today and every day the giving comfort to those who are harmed. And we remember today and every day the emotional trauma inflicted on, of course, the victims' families. Also, our community, our state, our country, and the world. But we also gather with hopeful hearts. Hopeful because in the face of an unconscionable tragedy, great horrors and pain, we've recommitted ourselves to active kindness and service towards our family, friends, and community. I won't read the entire proclamation that officially makes today recognizing the day of service, because words can only say so much, and frankly, those who have given personal testimony earlier this afternoon had much more powerful words than the proclamation of any governor can possibly convey. But what I do want to say from this proclamation is that on April 20th of each year, we will declare it a day of service, because on April 20th, Columbine High School celebrates a day of service during which students and staff, alumni, and community members come together in memory of our beloved 13 to perform acts of kindness for first responders, senior citizens, neighboring schools, community parks, homeless shelters, and others in needs of service. Whereas we recognize the community for turning their pain into healing and outreach, and the day of service on April 20th has grown stronger and been adopted by other schools in Colorado, across the United States, and across the world. You know, when this world showed us the very worst, we responded, the parents of this community, the state, the nation, by showing the world the very best that we have to offer. And of course, despite everyone's wish that we could bring back those who were lost, we can honor the memory of those who were lost by making this world a better place for all of us to live, by healing ourselves, healing our families, and healing the world. On behalf of the state of Colorado, I want to thank those involved for your deep commitment to this mission to make the world a better place, and recognize that henceforth, April 20th will always be known as a day of service in the state of Colorado. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Governor. Thank you. Thank you, Governor. I'd like you to turn to the screen, not for that person. There's a beautiful video tribute to our 13, intertwined with comments of the students, tribute to our community. Thanks for Jack putting this together.
We weren't even born the day you left us.
We didn't know your story until we were old enough to hear it.
But we wanted you to know how much you still mean to us.
We honor you in remembrance. We honor you with hope.
And we wanted you to know that what happened that day changed so many things.
Changed so many lives.
We are more loving, more caring.
dedicate ourselves to serving others.
The hard and tragic lessons of that day have made us smarter.
We are more aware of those who would do us harm.
We are better prepared and stronger.
We are still a family.
We are Columbine. I want to thank Jack Marr from our communications office for Jeffco Schools for making that fantastic video. Our last speaker today needs little introduction. He is one of the reasons why Columbine is still here today, why we are still Columbine. Mr. Frank DeAngelis.
Thank you. Each morning when I wake, the first thing I do is recite the names of my beloved 13. And then I pray. This morning, as I did my daily readings, I was encouraged by 3 simple words. Help me, Lord. This was a powerful statement for what I needed today as the activities began early this morning and will conclude with Remembrance commemoration. A time to remember, a time to hope. I spoke those words 19 years ago. Today is a day of recommitment. And it has been a long road to travel. But the one thing is I didn't have to travel that road alone. To the families of the 13, thank you for allowing us to remember the children and providing hope for us now and in the future, and for giving me the friendship, strength, and support that I needed to continue. And I am indebted to you for a lifetime. Thank you to the families. To the injured students, Patrick, Sean, Anne-Marie, Richard Castaldo, the 20 other 2 that were injured, you have given us so much inspiration in your tenacity to move forward and to help us mend our broken hearts on the road to recovery. And I want to applaud each and every one of you for reaching out and providing the support to other communities when they go through similar situations. To my family and friends, I love you dearly, and I could not be here today if it was not for you. To the dignitaries, thank you for the support that you gave us over the years to heal. We could not have done it without you. Thank you so much. To the staff members who have been at Columbine the past 20 years, for everything that you have done to help us heal, for the monumental role you played in the healing process in providing a bright future for our children. You built upon the excellent tradition that was established by Dr. Jerry Difford back in 1973 with the motto, a stretch for excellence. And each and every one of you have fulfilled that motto. Mr. Christie, thank you for your outstanding leadership and continuing to build the legacy. I want to thank the staff of 1998 and 99 for being there. We have a special bond, and we will always have that bond. Not only were you heroes that day, but you were heroes of those kids when we returned on August 16th, 1999. So if I can have any of those staff members stand up, please, to be recognized. Thank you. Also, we talk about rebel pride and everything that's going on. And we had an assembly today in which there were over 1,000 kids there, my kids. And it was something very special. And the one thing that I can tell you is we've always had each other. We've had that special bond through the good times and the bad. So if I can have any alumni, please stand up and be recognized and show that rebel pride. To the class of 1999, I worried the most about you because it was exactly 1 month and 2 days when you graduated from Columbine High School. And we sent you to travel on life's next journey. And you were unaware of what you were going to face. You've always been in my thoughts and prayers, and I will continue to be here for you as you were there for me. And I wish we knew what to expect. We didn't. We did the very best we could. So the class of 99, thank you. You're always part of Columbine. You mean so much to me. To the classes of 2000, 2001, and 2002, we struggled together. We cried together. We healed together. And as you entered the doors of CHS as freshmen, no one anticipated that you would encounter so much adversity, hardship, sorrow, and heartache in your young lives. You were forced to grow up far too quickly, and you were denied a normal high school life. For all the classes, I wish to take away the hurt that you've experienced during your time at CHS. I wish I could wipe away the tears that you've had to shed, and I wish I could lighten your heavy hearts and heal the wounds that was afflicted upon you. I cannot do that. All I can do is offer you the hope for a brighter future, and I'm proud of all the classes that walk through the doors at Columbine High School. There's a sign that stands above, "Through these halls, walk the finest students." You have made me a proud papa, and you'll always be my kids, no matter how old you are. Even Mr. Mosier, who's almost 58 years old. 58 plus, okay. Thank you to all the people around the world for your continued support and love that you've given to us over the years. We knew we never had to travel that journey alone. Something that I woke up to each and every day is our lives are not determined by what happens to us, but how we react to what happens. Not by what life brings to us, but by the attitude we bring to life. A positive attitude causes a chain reaction of positive thoughts, events, and outcomes. It's a catalyst, a spark that creates extraordinary results. During the past 20 years, it has been a time of peaks and valleys, and we've talked about that today. And for me, what changed my life was at the 5-year anniversary when Donna so eloquently shared the lives of our beloved 13. It was only fitting that what we saw here today. We mourned their death, but we celebrated their lives. And our world for such a long time knew that those were the kids that died in the library or outside the library in the hallway. But as people leave today, they know it's your children, who they were in their lives. And thank you for sharing them with us. As my dear friends, Kyle Velasquez's parents, Elle and Phyllis, shared with me, let's cry because we lost him, but smile because we have them. Elle Velasquez. Elle, we miss you. We have borne their death, but we've always celebrated their lives. And now they're no longer with us physically. Their spirit remains strong. We will draw from this strength from our memories of their lives and what they contributed to all of us. They will continue to provide support for this community, for this nation, and for this world. And each time I walk into Columbine High School and I look up at that mural, I see their smiling faces looking down upon us. And each new day, their smiles give students and staff members and parents at Columbine High School the sunshine that they so desperately need. And I know that they will never allow us to travel through this journey alone. Whenever I need strength, I go into the Columbine Hope Memorial Library. In the past 3 days, I spent a lot of time there because I knew I had a lot of public speaking to do, and I just asked for the strength. And when I walk out of that library and touch that placard with their names, I have the strength that I didn't have once I walked in. They will always be with us. It represents the healing of everywhere. It was the generosity, the compassion, and love from people around the world that allowed us to build that beautiful facility. Gerda Wiseman Klein, a Holocaust survivor, sends her love from Arizona today. She's 95 years old. She paid a visit to Columbine High School 9 months after, and she shared her story with us that day. It had helped with us heal because she said she was 17 years old when she was on the death march. She was 17 years old when she lost her brother and her parents. And she said, when I got liberated, I was 70 pounds and had white hair from malnutrition. And the man who liberated me, I married, her husband, Kurt. And she shared with us that I think resonates in this community today for the Columbine High School people. We have been able to turn pain into healing, ignorance into enlightenment, and hatred into love. And Gerda Wiseman Klein, I know we have made you proud as this legacy continues. My hope as we move forward is school violence comes to an end and that our nation is not mourning the loss of more children and educators, and the members of our society come together to stop these senseless acts of violence. Today, we make a recommitment to make the world to be a more accepting and loving place, a world that provides bright futures for our children, grandchildren, nieces, and nephews. It's our responsibility to carry the torch for a brighter future, a future that is filled with love for one another. We must pass this torch to future generations, never forgotten. If I may have the bell ringers, please come up. The most lasting tribute we could make to the 13 we remember today is to make the world a better place than what it was when they departed. Now, I would like to read the names of our beloved 13, the ones who so tragically lost their lives on April 20th, 1999. Remember, reflect, recommit. Cassie Bernal. Stephen Kernow. Corey DePuter. Kelly Fleming. Matt Kechter. Daniel Mauser. Danny Rohrbaugh. Dave Sanders. Rachel Scott. Isaiah Scholes. John Tomlin. Lauren Townsend. Kyle Velasquez. When someone you love becomes a memory, their memory becomes a treasure. To my beloved children and Mr. Sanders, thank you for always being in our lives. We will never forget you, and we will always love you. Thank you for being with us today.
I want to thank you all for coming out today. And thanks to our speakers, performers, and all of those who helped to make this event possible. Before we close, I would urge you not to make our theme, remember, reflect, recommit, a one-day thing. We will never forget what happened 20 years ago and what was taken from us, especially those of us who were there at Columbine. I would also hope that we all take the time to reflect about our lives and how to make our own corner of the world a better place. The challenge is making that recommitment. And I challenge you to recommit to your family and to serving your community, school, or place of work. To recommit to compassion and empathy for others, especially those we don't know personally. To recommit to forgiveness that leads to redemption, because we are all flawed.
and recommit to kindness and respect for all in memory of the 13. We are now going to close with the Queen City Pipe Band playing 2 verses of Amazing Grace, followed by a recessional. Once they have exited the seating area, the program will officially be concluded. Thank you, Columbine. We love you. Once again, thank you for coming out. Please drive safe. Have a great day. Have a great weekend.